The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation promotes, preserves, and perpetuates music, culture, and heritage through programs, cultural, educational, and economic activities year-round. Learn more at jazzandheritage.org. This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.
I'm Peggy Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, with updates from the local restaurant, arts, and entertainment scenes. Joining me, Poppy Tucker, yay, she's back, host of Louisiana Eats on WWNO Radio. Hey, Miss Poppy.
Hi,
Speaking of back, George Schmidt, who portrays New Orleans history on many of his canvases and is also a very talented musician with the new Leviathan Oriental Foxtrot Orchestra. Welcome. Hello.
Glad to be here.
And we love to have Alfred Richard with us, movie critic for WWL-TV. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
And it is so great to have once again Alan Smason, editor of the Crescent City Jewish News and Theater Criticism.com.
Thank you.
Hello. Poppy, a very well-deserved nod to some local chefs.
Absolutely. Well, the American Culinary Federation is an amazing organization. It's the largest professional chefs organization in all of North America. All our favorite chefs belong, and the purpose is to support apprenticeship, scholarship, and certification. It's a real feather in your cap to be certified by the ACF. Well, they are rebooting their anniversary galas, and they're celebrating because, you know, that pandemic did a little trouble, but they're back. And this is going to be their 10th anniversary. The MC that night is our dear friend, Kevin Belton. And I understand he may be honored. He's been a member of ACF forever. And this is a fabulous event where you are going to get to. There's Anastasia Joyner, who is the current president of the ACFNO. So this is really her party. But if you love food, if you love restaurants and chefs, there's going to be a huge bunch of chefs that all come together, all the chefs who are being honored, and we've got pictures of many of them, and this is just a taste. Jude Patrick Huval, if you have never been to Pat's Fisherman's Wharf in Henderson, he's bringing it to us. He's bringing his Saturday night special, and that's going to include all kind of seafood like soft-shell crabs and who knows what all. And the other chefs, they're cooking things like alligator griots, crawfish remoulade sliders, there's smoked quail, there's yakima dumplings. All these chefs are going to be serving their own dishes. You'll have a chance to talk with them and learn more. This is all going to take place on Monday, April 8th at the Lakefront Airport. It's going to be a great time. It always is. I've been to several of them, and if you love to meet and mingle with chefs, that's the place to be.
That's a great space, too.
Absolutely. Oh, it's a wonderful. Oh, and the Yat Pack's playing, so they'll even be dancing. It's going to be a great time. And I want to congratulate our friend Ralph Brennan. Believe it or not, Ralph's on the Park is celebrating 20 years, and they're celebrating that big anniversary with, well, it's kind of like the Irish sweepstakes. This is the Green for Good sweepstakes, and Oakland Heart has donated this beautiful diamond and emerald ring. And how this is going to work is Wednesday, April 3rd through Monday, May 10th, you have lunch at Ralph's, and you get to pick up an entry card. Then you take that entry card over to Oakland Heart. Try that ring on if you'd like. And that goes towards a drawing in May. On May 11th, they'll be drawing for who gets the ring. A portion of all the lunch proceeds is going to go to Children's Hospital because that is what Ralph Brennan is all about. You know, he doesn't have a foundation. He doesn't have these fundraising events. He gives out of his own pocket. And in the last 20 years, Ralph has given more than $2 million to Children's Hospital and other charitable organizations in the local area. That's out of his pocket. Bravo, Ralph. He's the best. But if we're talking about giving, Hogs for the Cause is celebrating, well, what they're billing the Sweet Swine Teen. For 16 years, that organization has contributed over $11 million to hospital programs and families fighting pediatric brain cancer. And the fun to be had. There's music, food, and drink. Friday night is Bacon and Wings night. That's 3:30 till 11 p.m. 3 stages of live music. The kids are welcome. It's great family fun. The tickets start at $50 on Friday, $60 on Saturday. But new this year, there's a general admission ticket that includes 5 drinks. So for $80 Friday night, $90 Saturday, or you can just have a big time and get the tickets for both days and 10 drinks for $159. And of course, it all goes to support that incredible pediatric brain cancer effort. So,
Well, Poppy, we have to have a special P.S.
Special P.S. is right. Eat your Elmer's candy. If the bunny, you know, who knows if he's coming Sunday, but I always
Hope
tell
so.
people, as soon as you see it in the store, eat it. The fresher, the better. What do you think, Peg?
Absolutely. Heavenly Hash and the more recent strawberry Heavenly Hash. But I'm sure hoping that my Easter basket will be full of some of these, especially gold brick.
I want the dark chocolate.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you. And Alfred, we've got some new movies we
Yes.
cannot miss.
Yes, we do.
Maybe.
Well, some we'll
We'll
see.
see.
Of course, we're still in the afterglow of the Oscars. Of course, Oppenheimer was really the big one, along with Poor Things. Barbie, not so much this year, although it had to stand with being the #1 box office movie of last year. But of course, that was fun, and having Ken singing, Ryan Gosling singing, "I'm Just Ken." And so, but it was a very good and a good show at the Britannia. But of course, we're now into that period before the summer movie blockbuster season, and of course, you know, if you're seeing things in your neighborhood, well, who are you going to call? You're calling the Ghostbusters yet again. No, this is not the Ghostbusters with Melissa McCarthy, so all you fanboys out there, you can calm down. This is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, I talked about this film in production a few months ago. Well, it's finally out. It's the #1 movie in the box office right now because there's a mixture. It has the new members, the new Ghostbusters, led by Paul Rudd. And he, of course, has been in so many of these Marvel movies, but he was in Ghostbusters Afterlife. And his fun exceeds to, again, carry over to the original cast. And most of them are back. Of course, Bill
Yay.
Murray, he is back as one of the lead Ghostbusters. And, of course, Dan Aykroyd, he is back there as well. Also, you can see Annie Potts is also in the film from that
fun.
time. So, and of course, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is back again. So, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is now showing in the theaters, rated PG-13. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble once more because it's time in the blue corner. That sounds like the old championship wrestling. In the blue corner, he is mean and green. Yes, it's Godzilla versus Kong. In the blue corner, he is green. He is from radiation therapy, of course, after World War II. Give it up for the big green guy. It is Godzilla. Godzilla is back, and you see him there in all of his royal splendor, and he's about to unleash upon you. And in the red corner, from the United States, he is mean. He has climbed the tall towers of New York City. Let's give a welcome to King Kong. Now, I've seen King Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus King Kong back in the 60s. And then there was a new Godzilla versus King Kong a few years ago. Well, now King Kong X Kong and Godzilla, depending on which one you want, the new empire. This time, they have to come together. I could talk about who's in the cast, but the cast really doesn't matter because you're in there for the big fight between Godzilla and King Kong. Who will reign supreme? We'll find out if you see Godzilla X King Kong. It is rated PG-13, showing just about everywhere. But remember, look, it's Godzilla!
Very good, thank you. And now for something completely different, George Schmidt. Mr. George, we
ma'am.
are in, of course, Holy Week and Good Friday, and around Good Friday there were some traditions, passion plays, and one of your most famous paintings depicts that. So we thought we would actually spend a little time talking about a few of your more historic paintings, of which there are many. But let's start with that one, which takes place, we're going to show it, at the French Opera, the original French Opera House, of course, which is no longer on Bourbon Street. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I was brought up with this. My grandmother.
Give us the name of the painting.
But it's called Father Etier's Passion Play. Father Etier was a pastor at Lady of Good Counsel Church, and he would put on a passion play at the French Opera House. And I was brought up with this because my aunt and my grandmother were in it, and that's all they talked about. They were very impressed with the fact that they were in it.
Look at that.
And this depicts the interior of the opera house, plus
which was horseshoe and
it was,
multi-tiered.
it was designed by James Gallia, built about 1857, and it represents a scene from the Passion Play. In the foreground is Veronica holding the sudarium. There's Christ carrying the cross. And way, way, way in the background, there's a silhouette of a man standing in the background who was a stagehand, a lighting technician at the French Opera House. His name was Nicola Rocca. And he made the first jazz record.
Wow.
So that's my homage to not just Jesus Christ, but to Nicola Rocca, which is very close.
And look at that audience.
Yeah, that's actually based on a photograph that was made of the opera house, the interior of the opera house that I found at, I think, at the Historic New Orleans collection.
Very ornate. The balconies.
It burned in 1919, which was a major loss to this town. And the cultural scene never really recovered itself.
At Bourbon and Toulouse, where there's a hotel today.
It's now a hotel. When I was a kid, it was called the French Opera House parking lot.
Oh, before it was built.
Remembers that, but, yeah.
Now, moving on then also to, well, Edgar Degas, as we know, spent many months here in the 1870s, and he painted a lot, and one of the most important paintings was the Cotton Office painting, and you are depicting him painting it. We're going to show that.
I did 4 paintings that sort of illustrated Degas' letters that he wrote from New Orleans. And he writes one, he says, I'm working on a painting called Portraits in a Cotton Office under the worst possible conditions, which means that he was painting in the guest room of the house on Esplanade Avenue. It was a house filled with kids, and he's an old bachelor, he didn't like kids. and he was like I say, he was painting
and this is his uncle.
In situ.
Isn't he painting
he was painting his uncle, Michel Mousson.
Who was a cotton broker.
Now, the interior of that building, I mean, of the Cotton Office, they're still there. I've actually been inside of it. When I was doing the painting, I went over to it's at the corner of Perdido and Carondelet Street. And there's a plaque.
Oh,
There's
really?
a plaque on the
I
building
didn't know
talking
that.
about this event.
Oh, okay. And then from there we'll move on then to, and this was also on a Rex poster, and it was commemorating the first Rex in 1872, who was on horseback, and hence you depicting him that way.
Actually, you know, there's an interesting thing. I was doing some research to doing this painting, and I think this is out
Love
there.
this.
I think in the Historic New Orleans collection. But there is a photograph that was made of the first Rex parade. That it shows it turning at St. Charles and Canal, going towards Uptown, and it has these men dressed like Bedouins, because in the description they were dressed like Bedouins, which means they were dressed Arabic. They were a previous group that existed at Carnival time, and when they did the first Rex parade, they enlisted this previous group to be in the parade. You see, and so it depicts them, and then the Rex figure itself, they borrowed a costume from a Shakespearean actor who was in town, he was dressed like Hamlet.
Lawrence Barrett.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And so that's kind of what that picture depicts.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be, I'm really into this, so that's why I'm extra excited. Richard III. It was supposed to be a Richard III.
Yeah, Richard III.
Costume.
You know.
But George, I mean, this is the tip of the iceberg for you. You have painted so many paintings, depicting historic moments and jazz and at the fairgrounds and New Orleans history in general. Louis Armstrong is Zulu. You do so many things. You really are so versatile versatile. And guess what? Good news that you are alive and well on Julia Street, and people can come and see you at Schmidt Gallery. George
Schmidt Gallery, 612 Julia Street,
Yeah.
Unit A.
Unit A. But you also do some more abstract work too. I mean, really, the versatility.
Well, lately I was looking at my pictures, and when you look at a painting, you look at the rectangle, you look at it, the totality first. Then you pick out here, you pick out there. The artist, what the art painter is doing is creating a path for your eye to follow, to enter into the painting at a certain point, to follow that path, and to exit. Well, I was looking at one of my paintings. I said, I call them the sweet spots. I think I'm just going to paint the sweet spots. So some of the latest things I've been doing has been close-ups of some of my work. So it ends up looking abstract, but it's not abstract at all. It just happens to be a detail.
I love it.
As you look at if you see an artist or a book, they'll always show you a detail of the painting under discussion. Well, I said, I'll paint the detail.
Well, go and see George and check out
And I'll
the
be
details.
more than happy to explain it to you.
Yes, please. And schmidtgallery.com
Yes,
for
ma'am.
many images.
SCHMIDT.
Yes, indeed. Yes, they're on Julia Street there. All right, Mr. Allen.
And I know occasionally some very famous local person that just show up in his paintings too, that are they're not necessarily the same face that you expect, right? Anyway, I wanted to mention that the Tennessee Williams New Orleans Literary Festival may be over, but not your chance to revel in a serious study of Tennessee Williams's early work. And these pieces later became two of his more well-known pieces. This is an all-female production company called the Fireweeds, and they're doing something called Outraged Hearts. In The Pretty Trap, we see Jacqueline Bethany take on the role of Laura Wingfield. As first imagined by the playwright, she's a sexually aggressive, argumentative young woman who feels trapped by her mother, Amanda, played by Lynn Gathright. Well, Laura is not the shy and quiet lady as we eventually will see in The Glass Menagerie. There's a lot of dialogue spoken to her and her gentleman caller, Jim Delaney, who's played by George Copeland. An interesting choice also, if you note there, was not to use Tom as the narrator. It's not a memory play that we might think, as he calls it, and Ross Michael Pasquale was seen there in traditional whiteface as a mime, a very interesting choice. There's Amanda Gathright again as Amanda. In Interior Panic, an early iteration of scenes from A Streetcar Named Desire, Lynn also plays Blanche Shannon, not Blanche Dubois. She's opposite Jacqueline Bethany, this time as Grace, not Stella, and her husband Jack Kefauver, of course played by Ross Michael Pasquale. Blanche is seen behind a scrim here, with her imagination running wild, and we witness her downward spiral into mental illness much more than in the eventual breakdown she has in Streetcar that we witness. Anyone who knows the final works of Menagerie and Streetcar will be schooled by these earlier attempts by Williams to refine his characters, and I have to say it gives us a little bit more insight into how radically different these characters were before being committed to that final draft. Again, you have a final chance to see it Friday and Saturday, March the 29th and the 30th at 7:30, and on Saturday there's an additional matinee at 2:30, and that's at the Big Couch on Desire at St. Claude Avenue. Opening this next weekend also at the Sanger Theater is the non-equity cast of Annie. That's the Adams and Strauss musical based on the Little Orphan Annie comic strip with a book by Thomas Meehan. Again, Annie plays at the Sanger from Friday until April the 7th, I'm sorry. And also just announced at the Sanger, listen to this, the first Cirque du Soleil show intended for theaters, not arenas. And this new work is titled Song Blazers, and it features, of all things, country music. So that'll be on sale now, but it won't actually arrive here until September. Tickets for Song Blazers now on sale at the Sanger website. And speaking of the Sanger, let's get down to it. Let's get into their just announced season that starts up in October after Song Blazers. First off, The Girl from the North Country. This features all the music by Bob Dylan. It's a critically acclaimed work that was on Broadway, coming straight over to New Orleans. Then next, after that, in October, will be Beetlejuice. I just really want to urge you to go see this. This is an equity tour. You don't want to see, not miss this one, because this is a fantastic show. If you've seen the film, it emulates the film very, very closely. I can tell you it will be one of the highlights of next season. Then the non-equity tour for for the Cher Show arrives just before Christmas. This was the show that won a Tony Award for Stephanie J. Block for her role as one of 3 ladies that play the role of Cher at different times in her career. And then after the new year, we start up in 2025 with Anne Juliet. This is a charming little play, a musical. It's a take on Romeo and Juliet, where Anne Hathaway and her husband, William Shakespeare, here played by Stark Sands and Betsy Wolfe, complete a radical change with the ending of the tragedy about the star-crossed lovers. You will love to see where this musical goes. Then the crowd pleaser, Mamma Mia, follows that. That's the ABBA musical jukebox that returns a few weeks before Mardi Gras. This is an equity show, so I expect it to be top-notch. And then the National Equity Tour of Funny Girl, featuring Melissa Manchester as Mrs. Price and Katrina McCrimmon as Fanny, will be on right after Mardi Gras. That production features a brand new book by Harvey Fierstein. Now, not part of the regular 7-show season is Hamilton that follows that, so regular season subscribers can add a little extra to the pot to have seats for that one. The show plays a little over a year from now. And then finally, a show you'll want to ease on down the road to see. This is the National Tour of the WYES. It arrives here in May, and it promises to be fantastic. Again, I just want to give one last shout out to Breakfast. That's going to be a series of different pieces that are going to be done by different performers here. This is David Simmons. He's going to be joined along with Harry Marone, Chris Weckland, just some of the folks who will be putting on this love letter to Bertolt Brecht. Now in its 5th year, the proceeds from this show will be at the Always Lounge. It'll benefit the Innocence Project.
All right, very quick picks. Poppy.
No reservations for Easter Sunday? Take my advice. Beggar's Banquet, brand new restaurant, just opened up, 10:30 till 3 p.m. Look at that pear toast.
All right, Alan.
Okay, if you get a chance to go to see Beautiful this weekend, try the code for Sunday afternoon show, BOGO, for additional discount on that. The Louisiana Philharmonic also will be featuring Strum as the opening piece on their April the 4th concert at the Orpheum Theater. Strum is a contemporary classical piece by Jesse Montgomery, who just won a Grammy for contemporary classical recordings. And then it'll have the concert with the Mendelssohn Symphony conducted by Stephen Mulligan. I'll see you at the theater.
Okay, Alfred.
If it's Friday or Saturday at midnight at the Britannia Theater, oh, Rocky! It's the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's a classic, and it's been at the Britannia for years.
All right, thank you so much. And George, schmidtgallery.com, right?
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Okay. And just to let you know that New Orleans author Randy Fertel will be launching his brand new book, Winging It, Improv's Power and Peril in the Time of Trump, next Thursday at 5:30 p.m. at the Jazz Museum. We got a chance to talk to him all about that. Let's take a look.
I got the title from a country and western lyricist in Nashville. We met at a conference, and I told him about the project, and he wrote me later, he said, I got the name for your book, Winging It. And so the rest of the title is Improv's Power and Peril in the Time of Trump. I celebrate all that improvisation throughout history has brought to culture. The glories. Robin Williams is maybe the most glorious, almost contemporary, but so you know what I mean. But when I saw Trump come down the Golden Escalator in June of 2015, I thought, man, I knew there was a dark side to this, but I didn't realize how dark it could get. And so the winging it, when someone says they're doing this impromptu, they're doing it without giving it any thought, they're doing it without any model or decorum, what they're saying is, trust me, I've given this no thought. And it's a ridiculous kind of logic, but it has great power and it has great peril. It's the thread of intuition and embodied emotion and instinct, and that's what it asks you to follow and respond with. And so this seems to be more trustworthy because it's authentic and it lends an authority that rationality also is vying for authority, but this is a different kind of authority. So at the heart of improv is the charismatic voice of the improviser. He has to be at his best. in order to find that next rhyme word or the way forward. But sometimes that's a benign charisma that invites the audience to partake of it and become part of it, and so it builds community. And then there's this malignant narcissism that we've seen so much on TV, that it's all about ego. Improv is the source of much of the innovation and creativity. By pushing back against decorum and rules and the way things are, that's where innovation and creativity lie. Well, Fred Astaire is a great example of the spontaneity's meticulously prepared art, because he rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed in order to look like he was carefree and careless. Very much a trickster figure in all his films, thumbing his nose at decorum. And he rehearsed so much and was so committed to looking unrehearsed that he hired a guard to protect his studio, his rehearsal studio, so that no one can barge in and see how hard he was sweating. What I do is I compare him to Gene Kelly, the more grounded, muscular guy who is committed to you're seeing him sweat. It's work for him, and I explore that. So Armstrong was, of course, the inventor of the improvised solo in jazz history. Do you know, when he was 8 years old, he was in the talent show at the Iroquois Theater, which is next to the Karnofskys and near the Eagle Saloon, all holy places in jazz history. And right before he went on in the talent show, he put his face in a flour sack. He went on in whiteface. He made fun of minstrelsy. He pushed back against blackface. And that he could do that at 8 years old shows a genius that's beyond imagining, who was bringing a new culture by pushing back against an old culture. I've been working on this for 50 years, and I've often reflected that it's kind of a book that a New Orleanian would be best fit to write. It's the flow of our community, the flow of our streets, the flow of our social engagement is the flow that is at the heart of improv. And of course, it first emerged as jazz first emerged here, and so that was one hook to hang this topic on.
Once again, Randy's book signing, the launch is next Thursday at the New Orleans Jazz Museum. And just finally, NOLA Chamberfest next week, NOLAChamberfest.com. Happy Easter. Thanks for watching.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation promotes, preserves, and perpetuates music, culture, and heritage through programs, cultural, educational, and economic activities year-round. Learn more at jazzandheritage.org. This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.